Once upon a time, long ago in the radiant city of Nuan, a wise and just king ruled over a prosperous kingdom. He was known for his intelligence and kindness, and his greatest joy was his beloved daughter, Princess Gulnar. Tragedy struck soon after her birth when the queen passed away, leaving the king heartbroken. However, he vowed to raise his daughter with love and care. A few years later, he remarried. The new queen appeared gentle and courteous, but in reality, she was a cunning and heartless woman skilled in sorcery. This queen possessed a magical mirror that always spoke the truth and confirmed her as the most beautiful woman in the land. Every day she would ask, "Mirror, mirror, tell me true, who is the fairest of all?" And the mirror would always reply, "O queen, none on this earth is fairer than you." Years passed and Princess Gulnar blossomed into a stunning beauty, with eyes as serene as a dreamy lake, radiant fair skin, and a smile that could captivate any heart. One day, when the queen posed her usual question, the mirror gave an unexpected answer. "O queen, now Princess Gulnar is the fairest of them all." The queen turned pale with envy and rage. Her pride shattered and she became consumed with jealousy. Determined to get rid of the princess, she devised a wicked plan. She summoned the royal huntsman and ordered him to take the princess deep into the forest and kill her. As proof, he was to bring back a token of her death. The huntsman, though loyal to the queen, had a kind heart. He took Gulnar to the forest under the pretense of a hunting trip. When they reached a deserted, dense part of the woods, he unsheathed his sword. Frightened, Gulnar asked, "Why do you wish to harm me?" The huntsman lowered his gaze and said, "O princess, I have no choice. The queen has commanded your death. But I cannot bear this burden on my soul. Run. Go as far as you can." Shaken but determined to survive, Gulnar fled into the forest. To deceive the queen, the huntsman slew a wild deer and smeared its blood on her cloak, before presenting it as proof of her demise. Night fell, and the forest seemed eerie and unwelcoming. Exhausted and starving, Gulnar spotted a small cottage at the foot of a hill. She cautiously stepped inside and found the house in disarray, with remnants of food and unwashed dishes. Rolling up her sleeves, she cleaned the house, washed the dishes and, after satisfying her hunger, lay down on a small bed. Late at night, 7 dwarfs returned home. They were hard-working gem miners who lived in the forest. Seeing their house unusually tidy, they were taken aback. When they spotted the sleeping maiden, they grew even more curious. When Gulnar awoke, she was startled by the unfamiliar faces. However, the dwarf spoke gently, asking who she was and how she had come there. She narrated her tale, and the kind dwarfs offered her shelter. Meanwhile, the queen, overjoyed at her supposed victory, once again stood before her mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror, tell me true, who is the fairest of all?" To her horror, the mirror replied, "O queen, Princess Gulnar is alive and living with the 7 dwarfs in the forest." Rage boiled inside the queen. This time, she decided to take matters into her own hands. Disguising herself as an old woman, she took a poisoned apple and set off for the forest. Finding Gulnar alone, she sweetly said, "Dear child, I am a traveler. Here, taste this delicious apple. You will love it." Gulnar hesitated, but the old woman took a bite from one side of the apple and said, "See? It's perfectly safe." Unaware of the queen's trickery, Gulnar took a bite from the poisoned side. The moment she did, the deadly poison spread through her veins. When the dwarfs returned, they found her lifeless and wept bitterly. However, they couldn't bear to bury her, for she still looked as beautiful as ever. They placed her in a glass coffin and kept watch over her, hoping she would awaken one day. Some days later, a young prince happened to pass by. When he saw the glass coffin, he was mesmerized by the princess's ethereal beauty. With the dwarf's permission, he stepped closer and gently applied a special fragrant oil to her nose. Suddenly, Gulnar sneezed and opened her eyes. The dwarfs rejoiced, and the prince was overjoyed. Meanwhile, when the queen stood before her mirror again, her face wrinkled and aged instantly, and she turned into a helpless old hag. Gulnar, now aware of everything, returned to the palace with the dwarfs. The king, learning the truth, ordered the queen to be imprisoned, where she remained a powerless, withered crone. The prince then proposed to Gulnar, and with the dwarf's blessings, she returned to the city of Nuin. A grand wedding was held, with the 7 dwarfs as the guests of honor. Thus, light triumphed over darkness and truth prevailed forever. The end.